Hello everyone and welcome back to the University of Law podcast. I'm Nic Ashton, Alumni Manager here at ULaw, and today I'm joined by Martin Spiller. Martin is a chartered accountant and non-practising barrister with years of experience in finance, business and education. He has worked as a CFO, corporate financier, entrepreneur, serial non-executive director, early stage investor, the list goes on. He runs a popular Free Advice Friday initiative on LinkedIn, sharing practical insights and guidance. We'll be chatting about his career path and approach to supporting aspiring professionals. Hi Martin, welcome.
Thanks Nick, thanks for inviting me. I never thought I'd get invited to a podcast at the University of Law, given that I didn't really have what you could call a career, so I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, you're very welcome. You've had a fascinating and varied career. When you look back, did you ever expect your career to be so diverse?
So it looks really unintentional, and if I'm talking about it, I generally say that, it's just a random walk. Some of it was intentional, so I knew exactly what I was going to do when I did it, so I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, which sort of dedicated my initial choices. And I also think if your career looks super organised these days, probably not stretching yourself hard enough. But some of it is about taking opportunities that you find, and I wanted to be a barrister, but I couldn't afford to be a barrister, hence the finance route. But then there's a chance after I'd sold my business to do the barrister thing, and I think I look rather dashing in a wig, if nothing else. But also, it was a great opportunity. So I think it's a bit of both. I expected it to be a bit varied, maybe not quite as varied. I don't think I ever set out to end up in education, for example, but you take the opportunities you get. And also, I think as you grow older and develop, your preferences change and what you like doing changes. And I probably wanted to be the next Warren Buffett and take over the world when I was 20. At 50, I don't really want to do that. So I probably can't do that as well, that's another point. But things change and people change and times change. So, but I do think these days, the days of being in a job for 20 years are over. And therefore, if you're not messing around a little bit and trying to explore opportunities, you're probably playing it a bit safe. But then I would say that I'm an entrepreneur, right?
I think it's quite brave. It's quite a leap of faith, isn't it, to just leave something that you know so well. And then
it's interesting watching. So I recently left Cranfield University after 4.5 years because, being completely honest and frank, I told them if they didn't promote me, I would leave, and they didn't believe me, and I didn't get promoted. And probably they don't believe I was due a promotion. That's absolutely fine. But you could watch a lot of my colleagues who were in the job, literally, like the idea of just leaving something panics them. But also, Nick, I have to say, the intentional part is I earned enough money very, very early on with my first business, got rid of my mortgage, so I was able to do these things, and that makes a difference. Yeah. So it looks like a random walk, and it is a bit of a random walk, but there is intention behind it. So to say that I didn't plan for some of this stuff, obviously you can't plan to do well, but once you take those opportunities.
Yeah, and advocating for yourself and knowing your worth is important as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, but also just sometimes taking a risk, right? I mean, again, it depends on your circumstances. I don't have children. I have an ex-wife and an ex-fiancée, and I have a dog now, Fernando, which is pretty much the centre of my universe. So as long as I can afford to feed me and Fernando and keep a roof over our head, I can take more risks than if I'd got 2 children, for example. So everybody's a bit different, but for me, I like a bit of risk, and I also don't like to be bored. And sometimes if you stay in the same spot, like my first business, super profitable, amazing, but it was boring after a while. I knew that every month, so we're in January now, I could tell you what I'd be doing. We'd be launching Valentine's Day because I had a giftware company. We'd be launching Valentine's Day and I'd be planning Father's Day and Christmas for the next year. And I found that a bit dull at the end. So for me, a bit of risk is always good.
Now you've sort of answered this question a little bit in
sorry.
what you just said.
I'm not very good at. The other thing is I'm not very good at following rules.
But what motivated you to take on so many different roles across finance, law, and education?
Yeah, I mean the finance was I'm old. So when I was coming out of university, barristers didn't get paid anything. There wasn't a minimum wage for barristers, and I wanted to be a barrister. But you had to finance the first 6 months where you earn nothing and you follow your pupil master around. and then whatever you could earn in the second 6 is what paid you. And I couldn't afford that. I don't, sadly, and I keep looking for the rich relatives, but I don't have any. My parents weren't poor, but they couldn't fund that. And finance did, so I was an Arthur Anderson Scholarship student. I got that before university, so they had places for 50. I think Deloitte have taken it over now. They had places for 50 students, and there was 35 in my year. And that's what I'm kind of going back to what I was saying about being intentional. I knew I wanted to have a good life as a student, so I went and got a scholarship. And I think, and this is again showing my age, back before the internet, I used a typewriter and applied to something like 190 different placements using a typewriter and a photocopied CV, because I found a book on internships. Most of them were like for engineering, and I was doing business, and they rejected me outright. But I got the Arthur Anderson one, and nearly got the Army one, but they got sent to Kosovo. So there's my intention. I knew I wanted to be funded through university and have work experience. But I also knew I couldn't come out of and do the bar, so I went back into finance, where they pay better and they pay more readily. And then I guess coming into the law thing, there's 2 parts. One is I needed something to do after I sold my first business, and I wasn't going to do an MBA because I was already teaching MBAs, and I'm a chartered accountant, and I wanted to prove that I could do the bar. But also legal advice as an entrepreneur is quite hard to get good legal advice at a price, and the bar is amazing training. I have to say the whole advocacy stuff and all of that was really insightful. And then the random bit is the education. I don't think anybody ever thought I'd end up being a lecturer at a university, but actually it's probably the thing I'm most passionate about is teaching. It's what I get the biggest buzz from. I like my non-exec work, and I like helping businesses grow, and I like doing deals, but I really like the impact of teaching students and companies and things when you make the tiniest bit of impact on them.
Brilliant, thank you. And for students listening today who are worried about choosing the right path, what would you say about non-linear careers?
So again, I think we've seen the end of that working for the same company for 30 years for the most part. They're rarer and rarer. It's a bit like when you find out somebody met somebody in real life dating. It's like, what, you didn't meet online, you weirdo. I think the same goes. So for me, I think you need to be open to opportunities. I think you need to think, and I think there's more change coming if you see the things like the likes of McKinsey and the banks and the lawyers and the accounting firms taking less graduates on because of things like AI. So I think you need to be more open to non-linear. I think you need to plan and be intentional. So again, mine looks like a random walk, but I did get the scholarship program, so I had money to go through university. I took a finance role because I knew that I couldn't fund the bar route for then. So be a bit of a plan, but also keep yourself open to opportunities. And there's lots of new startups, new developments, new things coming within the firms. So maybe don't be as prescriptive as before. The one benefit of being in the UK over some other markets as well is it doesn't really matter what your degree is, or your master's degree, or your postgraduate, you can still do. So, you know, we're not like, for example, in Australia, you have to be an accountant through university in order to be an accountant. We're quite lucky here. So focus more on the training. And the one other thing I'd say is when you're at University of Law, or whichever, if you're not watching from University of Law, why not? But if you're not at University of Law, when you are, open yourself out to all of the things that the university provides, because it really bugs me when my students at Cranfield, or when I was there, you've got all these talks and events and things. Go to them.
Yeah.
Because they're there for a reason, and they're there to open opportunities, and they'll change your mind on what's available. So go to all the events, network like mad,
Yeah.
but use that opportunity. You're only a student for a limited time. You can get away with things as a student you can't get away with when you're in a job, for example.
Yeah, so you're just sort of taking every opportunity that presents itself, basically.
Massively. Like, for example, at the bar, you have to join an in. Go to the dinners. Don't just view it as I have to do 12 dinners. Go to as many as you can. Firstly, for £10 or whatever it is they're charging these days, it's a great feed. But secondly, I got to see the ambassador to the Court of St. James, the American ambassador to the Court of St. James, with his UK mirror, talk about the Obama election at the time. These are opportunities you don't get outside. In the University of Law, I know, do loads of events and careers, but also talks and things. Go to them. Meet new people, see new opportunities, keep your eyes open, keep your head up. Don't be convinced, maybe the days of I'm going to be a solicitor, I'm going to be a barrister, I'm going to join this chambers, I'm going to do that. Those opportunities might be there. So you need to be a bit more kind of open up to the world, I would say.
Brilliant, thank you. That's brilliant advice. A few little bits on your professional insights. You provided expertise on things like the Chancellor's budget. What's involved in preparing for being a panellist, and what helped you build your credibility?
So you're into a bit of a hobby horse of mine now. Firstly, I think you need to stay in your lane. So I try not, so although I've run a lot of businesses and I've been involved in a lot of digital marketing agencies and things, I can provide strategic advice on marketing, but I can't do the do. It's not my thing. I have to, like somebody said, oh, you know a lot about marketing. Yes, but I don't, if you put me in front of a Google Analytics thing and try me, I can't work it. So I think you need to stay in your lane. You also need to prepare like mad. So, I spent hours preparing for that Chancellor's thing because I don't normally watch the budgets that closely. It's like confession in Nick, but I'm an accountant who I hate tax. It's so boring. I find it hard to get excited, and I think I'm probably one of the few entrepreneurs maybe, I don't mind paying my fair share of tax. I don't really like what they're wasting on, but that's a political statement, but I don't mind paying, and I find it all very turgid. But prepare like mad, stay in your lane, build competence. But at the moment there seems to be this whole kind of influencer generation of confidence over competence. I think you need to recognise what you're good at and what you're not good at. So for example, I wouldn't go and stand up on a law panel about the latest developments in human rights law. I love watching it, but I'm not an expert. So stay in your lane, prepare like mad, and build competence in the things you want to talk about. So if you want to talk about them, you better learn about them, because the one thing you'll get exposed at really badly as a panelist or a speaker is talking about things you don't really know much about, because especially in the kind of troll era, I mean, there are trolls who follow things like Crowdcube, for example, the fundraising site where they troll companies on there. There are trolls everywhere. I've had some absolute doozy fights on Twitter or X with people about stuff. But if you know your stuff, they can't really argue with the content.
Brilliant, thank you. And how has your experience across multiple sectors helped you advise companies as they grow? And is there an example of how your varied experience has come into play unexpectedly in your career?
I mean, I'm an interesting beast, okay? So I'm a chartered accountant, and hopefully with my mohawk, I used to have a man bun, but it was too hard to manage, so I went back to my mohawk. I would hate the idea that anybody goes looking at Martin's picture, oh, he's an accountant, so hopefully I don't look like one.
I don't think you do.
Good, thanks. I try hard. I also try not to look like a senior lecturer or anything that I'm supposed to do. I think my background's interesting. So I'm an accountant, so I can do numbers. I'm a practicing CFO, and I've spent lots of time in lots of different sectors. I know a bit about the law. I don't provide legal advice for the bar, just in case they're wondering. But obviously, if you're on the board of a company and a legal issue, you've got an opinion on it and can help manage and scope that. I used to be in charge of sales for my companies, which not many accountants do that. So I think I offer a wide range of experience, which at the SME level is what you need, because there's that phrase, and I hate it, it's jack of all trades. We use it as if it's a pejorative, but the actual phrase I think is something more like jack of all trades and master of none is always better than a master of one, or something like that. But at the SME level, that's what you are. You are a jack of all trades. You have to deal with all sorts of things. So I guess that helps. In terms of when it's unexpected, just so you know, everybody, Nick did send me some of the questions in advance. I genuinely couldn't think of one. I think the thing about SME life is it's always unexpected. So the story I always tell is nobody tells you that at 4 a.m, 3 nights running, you're going to be at your warehouse trying to get a starling out of the warehouse because it's setting off the alarm, and you have to respond, because if you don't respond, the police won't respond and your insurance goes up, or you won't get insurance. So 3 nights running, I was in my warehouse trying to get out birds, and we couldn't find where they were getting in. So you're running around at 4 a.m, flapping a piece of cardboard, and you're really not very happy at your 2 business partners who didn't bother to answer the phone for the 3rd night running. These are things you can't explain, and the one thing I would say about SME life, the reason I like growing businesses is it is so unexpected. What you're going to be expected to do, everything from fixing toilets, which, and anybody who knows me knows I'm about as practical as, well, I'm not. I'm not allowed to do DIY because the first bit I ever did broke a whole wall and cost about £2,000 to fix. But those are the things you need to be challenged on. So I think being that jack of all trades is a good thing. And also, it's a bit like watching AI outputs. You need to know your stuff in order to be able to see what you're doing. And so, you know, if you've got a marketing team, you need to be able to give input, because when you're at SME level, if you're the managing director or the financial officer or chief financial officer, whatever, the buck kind of stops at you. There is nobody else to ask. And sometimes you have to answer questions about things or take punts on things that you've no idea about. But you have to do your research. And so I like that bit, but I racked my brain of an unexpected one, and not really, because most of the things just kind of, they happen and you deal with it. So
yeah. Just a bit of variety in the role. And
I think that's what I like. When it gets boring, that's when I lose interest. So to give you an example, I think last year, for example, at Cranfield, I did 2,150 hours of lecturing, and I was told that the average lecturer does like 200 to 400. Because if I get bored, I'm going to probably do something. I had a job, which was very scary. I have a contract of employment. I'd probably do something bad if I got bored. So the best thing to do is keep me teaching, which I did, and I love that. And the best bit about teaching, so MBAs and MScs, because Cranfield is post-grad only, they have one set of questions, but when you're teaching somebody whose company it is, and I did 700 companies in 4 years, their questions come in all shapes and sizes. And they don't care if you've answered the question before for somebody else. They want the answer to them. And I love that because it keeps you on your toes, and that's the bit that used to get me out of bed every morning. I like the variety, and if life's a bit boring, I get bored. Yeah. So I'm not very good at that, as you probably worked out. And
it sounds like you're always learning as well when you're in that environment.
I love learning.
Yeah.
If anybody tells me that, if somebody tells me they know everything, then I think that's the worst crime anybody can commit. You're always learning. You've always got something to know about somebody. I think people are quite closed off. Like in the last 2 weeks, I went to Athens and back, and then I went to Belfast, and I took some cabs. And I learned, for example, the person on the seat next to me on the way back from Athens was doing a PhD about using light to create ultrasound for scanning. She was amazing. Then I was sat next to a McKinsey associate partner who we were talking about AI in the insurance sector, which is a bit more interesting than it sounds, I have to say, whenever anybody mentions insurance. But if you're open to these things and you're willing to, there's so much to learn, and nobody knows everything. And if the people who start telling you that they know everything, yeah, I think they're the ones to avoid.
They probably don't know everything.
Well, I've yet to meet anybody who doesn't. I work with some people, and I've met some people in my life who are super brains, but even they, I think that's the Carol Dweck stuff, isn't it, about fixed and growth mindset. And I think you should always, but I guess somebody described me as always inquisitive, and that's the best bit. Yeah. Mainly because I find some of the other bits of life so boring. So it's good to have variety, and it's good to practice and learn from people. And like, for example, I can tell you my cabbie from the other day was a Brentford fan, and he's been there since forever. His seat is next to the box. He knows the directors. His favourite player is Rico Henry. And we found all that out in the kind of 15 minutes from my house to Heathrow. But you find out all sorts from all sorts of people, and I think that's the best bit.
Yeah, I agree. This one's a bit of a different one. If you weren't in finance, law, or education, which, you know, you've done all these things, what do you think you'd be doing now? You can be as outlandish as you wish.
Well, obviously, if anybody's looking at this on video, for those who aren't, my career in modelling was not going to happen. So it looks really unintentional, and if I'm talking about it, I generally say that, yeah, it's just a random walk. Some of it was intentional, so I knew exactly what I was going to do when I did it. So I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, which sort of dedicated my initial choices. And I also think if your career looks super organised these days, probably not stretching yourself hard enough. But some of it is about taking opportunities that you find, and, you know, I wanted to be a barrister, but I couldn't afford to be a barrister, hence the finance route stuff. At Arthur Andersen, I was in the deal origination group first, and I fought to get into that in corporate finance. So I got massive experience. I'd been in corporate recovery before and run 19 companies before I went to university, because I was in there 93, 94, the biggest bust in UK corporate history, and we had so short staffed. So I ran a cheesecake factory, for example, in Stockton-on-Tees for 6 months. But I came back to Arthur Andersen knowing I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so for me, that was a deliberate move. I knew what I was good at, and I hit the career that I'm best at. The benefit of that is it allows me to do other things. So quite a lot of my other stuff, when I sold my first business, I spent about 25% of my year giving back. And that's one of the reasons I like education, is I feel like I love the pay it forward, giving, or whichever way, giving back, paying forward, whichever way you look at it, movement. Like doing nice things for people. I really wish we could all be a bit, I'm going to sound like some aging hippie now, but I'm not. But I just like the idea that we can all do a bit. Because if we all did a little bit of good, so that's one of the things that I'm most passionate about. But I've got the career I was destined to have.
Yep.
And yes, it spans a lot, but I think it was.
Yeah, it was always that.
I think so, because there's not very many other things I'm good at. I'm okay at sport. I played for a good rugby team. I used to be a really good swimmer till I hit 15 and got wider and wider and not taller and taller, and physics takes over. I've had a pretty good shot, but I think I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I can't think of anything else I could have been.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have been very happy. I'll tell you, the one thing I am happy about is even when I'm employed, which was scary at Cranfield to be employed again, even when I'm employed, I know I've got a bailout because of what the work I've done, and I'm not scared to bail out, and I know I can go into other things. So I'm pretty where I'm supposed to be, I think.
It's so funny because most people would say being employed is the non-scary bit and being self-employed is the scary bit. So it's quite an interesting take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I went back because of IR35. So if anybody doesn't know, there's a thing called Inland Revenue Note 35, which all freelancers are scared of because it's whether you act like an employee. Don't look it up, people. It's the dullest thing ever. But if you want to work for yourself, you're going to have to be good at understanding it. And they changed the rules, and so all public bodies were in receipt of public funds, which Cranfield was, then made the determination not the person previously it was the subcontractor who was in charge. And so I was going to lose teaching because I couldn't do it through the system. And big shout out to my ex-boss, Professor Stephanie Hussle. She gave me a shout when others wouldn't, but I was petrified, Nick. The idea of having a contract after 20 years of being free, like I've kept forgetting I have to submit requests for holiday, not just, oh, I'm going, bye. I mean, yes, I have clients, but I'm not, yes, I have to report to them, but if I'm telling them I'm going, I've never been on holiday in the last, since, I'm 50 now, so since I was 25 maybe, I've not been on holiday without a laptop, so I just work wherever I am. My ex-wife and I had this amazing fight. We locked our Blackberries back in the day in the safe in the Maldives when we went on our honeymoon. But you could see both of us after 2 or 3 days getting itchy and pulled them out. We had like, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going to go for a walk, both on our. So but I had to fill in forms, and I have numbers of holiday days, and there's my PDR, my performance development review, took me 7 hours to do. I do millions of them, but I've never had them done on me for years. So that's quite scary to me.
It's a different world for you.
Massively.
Yeah.
And there's some benefits to it too. It's quite interesting to do some self-reflection, because when you're the boss, nobody tells you. You might have a screaming match with your business partner, but that's a very different thing. So for me, that's scary.
Yeah. Touching upon what you were saying about giving back, you're big on LinkedIn.
Try my best.
You've got a presence on LinkedIn.
Try.
Can you tell us about your Free Advice Friday initiative, how it started and what did you hope to achieve from it?
Well, I went to so when I quit Cranfield in, I think I finished in August or September, I'm not. The one thing I've realised over the years is that I think I'm mildly dyspraxic and I'm really bad at dates, but because my week doesn't matter, even when I was at Cranfield I taught on weekends, I realised time has no meaning to me. But I went to a course I did a couple of courses. I did an AI ethics course, but I also went to a LinkedIn course because I think you should, so straight out of the gate, I thought I'd better do some things, otherwise I might be watching whatever the new Jeremy Kyle equivalent is. So I went on these courses and they told us that you have to do videos. So I decided I'm going to do something, and it's also linked to launching a business because there's no such thing as a free lunch, Nick. So I decided, I hate my face and I hate being on there, but the only way LinkedIn works these days is video. So I actually did two things. I got an amazing column with some guys, Ollie and Sam, for 9 AM Business, writing, and then I thought I'd better do the videos for LinkedIn. And I thought rather than just promote my company, Oakmere Partners, with my partners, we'll make it into giving advice. I hate the idea of self-promotion for no reason. So we just do bits of advice, and it turned into free advice Friday. And then if I was too busy to do it, it became Wisdom Wednesday and Motivation Monday. I could come up with a hashtag to fit any day. But the idea was just to give back, and hopefully that people follow it, and even if they get, again, the tiniest bit of advice and the benefit, then I'm happy. Yeah. So it was promoting Oakmere, it's getting our message out there, but at the same time, rather than just me standing up saying, oh, we're brilliant, well, okay. And I guess, sorry for rambling a bit, but I believe in transparency. And so I'm happy to tell people how I grow businesses, even if I'm in competition with them, because at the end of the day, there's enough market for everybody.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to students on building their professional presence online?
Well, if I could just take it slightly wider, I think students need to network from the very first bit. Unless you've got £1 billion trust fund or loads and loads of rich mates, you need to network from the get-go, and the university start is the start. Build that network, and like I said before, go to events. A friend of mine has raised loads of money for his business, and he finds it super easy. And he's like, well, it's really easy, just ring up these people. And he had this great approach saying, if I ring Nick, I'm going to ask you, I want you to listen to my presentation, because Bob, I don't want you to invest because Bob's my target, but Martin's already invested. And he's got that network. He spent the last 30 years. He finds it super easy because he's built a network. If you come to 30, 40 years old and you want to launch something and you have no network, that's when it becomes super difficult. So network. Within that, there are social media can amplify your voice. So I link in with everybody now. Business cards are kind of dead as far as I can see. Everybody clicks on that QR function that you've got in the thing, and everybody links in with each other. And I also quite like it because there's friends, like, for example, I've linked in with you now and we've met. You can see what they're up to, and I really love that. Yep. So I met up with some friends I haven't seen for a year, and albeit there's loads of other things they've done, at least I had a good idea of what they've been up to professionally. LinkedIn's good. I think Instagram is definitely taking off and is brilliant on the female side, which I spend a lot of time working with female entrepreneurs. TikTok baffles me. I've finally got a TikTok, but I don't know how it works. And Twitter, I have to say, is probably my least favorite. Well, Facebook's my least favorite because I've kind of stopped using it. But Twitter's become a bit more of a battleground than I like. It's a bit vitriolic
at times, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't used to be. I met so many cool people through Twitter.
I think it's changed a lot.
Yeah, and there isn't a substitute at the moment. Yeah. Like the Blue Sky thing didn't really take off. But LinkedIn, I think, the only issue I've got with LinkedIn is a few people are treating it more and more like a business Facebook and giving all these things about their life and romance and stuff. And from my side, there's a different place for that.
I agree. I think it should be.
Yeah, it's business focused.
Yeah.
But it's a great way of keeping a network, particularly overseas. So for me, the wider advice is network your posteriors off, and LinkedIn's part of that strategy. Yeah. But again, if you look at my LinkedIn, it's normally trying to give advice rather than self-promotion or give something that I found that was useful. What's really interesting, I had my first viral LinkedIn post. I shared something by Rory Sutherland, who, if you don't know, look him up, he's the kind of branding guru. And it was about wine, and I was linking it to SMEs. It was about wine in restaurants, about how they set up the glasses and kind of force you down that route. All of a sudden, and I have to say, sorry gents, but it's us, had all these people mansplaining to me. It's like, did you read what I wrote? not about the wine, it's about being more intentional in business and planning things out with your customers. But I had people, all sorts of people mansplaining things to me, which I know I should have ignored them, but I'm not very able to do that, Nick. So I did end up having somebody talked about God, and again, whether you're religious, whether you're not, I don't think LinkedIn's the place for that. But it was very interesting how, it was my first and only viral post. Most of mine stay within my network who are broadly sensible.
Yeah, going viral can be good and bad, can't it?
It was fun. I had a great 2 days. I had a great 2 days of fighting with all these people because I just can't resist it. I know I should grow up, but I guess at heart I'm still an 18-year-old boy.
They're trying to get a rise out of you, and they're getting.
And they got one because at the moment I don't have a full-time job, so I've got plenty of time to spend at night with me and my dog, and he doesn't. After about 9 o'clock, he goes to sleep, so I've got to amuse myself.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a little bit about your advice for students. For students interested in careers in finance, corporate leadership or consultancy, what skills do you think they should focus on developing now? I know you've touched upon networking, but is there anything else that you think might be helpful?
I think they have to be realistic. There's some industries like everybody, I want to be I don't know, insert top brand consultancy. If your CV's not up there, if you don't have that, you need to be realistic about life. I know it's harsh and and this idea that there's diversity, there is, but still you're talking about, and if you get it, fantastic, but be realistic about life. So do your research, think about how you compare with the average person that they pick. If you want to punt at it, go for it, but have a backup plan again, be intentional. So do your research, build your network, try to make yourself really, really different, I would say. The one thing that I like is standing out. So as a kind of story back in the day, as an Arthur Anderson scholar, I was involved in scholar recruitment, and I went down and I had 15 interviews in over 2 days, and every single student had A star. Back then, I think it was A star. Now it's changed to numbers. I can never really keep up. But an A star at GCSE, and we're all predicted 4, 5 A levels. So how do you stand out?
Yep.
The first person that stood out was there was one, I'll call her a girl because at the time she was 16, but there was a young lady who did a Saturday job. And all her friends, again, had got all these, I've done an internship at Goldman Sachs, blah, blah. Fine, and I'm not diminishing it, but the person who got a Saturday job on their own, who went around every shop in their village and got a job, instantly stands out. Because you're like, well, that's quite mature at 17 or 16 to think of that. So for me, think about how you're going to stand out.
Yeah.
Business skills are really good, work experience, volunteering. But again, if you've done, no offence to it, the Duke of Edinburgh and all of that stuff, if everybody's done it from their school, you're not standing out. So think of a way. So research, networking, standing out. And also being, again, back to what, I guess where you started, being a bit more open-minded. Look for the other opportunities that you might want to go to, and I'll drop a name, McKinsey or Accenture or Bain. If you're not ready to do it now, it doesn't mean you won't do it in the future. Once you've got a bit more experience and they're an expert in your space, the partner from McKinsey I met at the flight the other day, he didn't start out there. He went to a different route. So again, keep your options open. So those were kind of 4 points I would stick to.
Yeah. Brilliant, thank you. And what should they expect during their early career and in interviews for these types of roles? Is there like a recurring question that you've had at, say, loads of the interviews you've had that you think probably comes up quite a lot?
Yeah, I mean, they always do these, and I think they're rubbish. So I'm sorry, recruiter people. Give me an example when you had a conflict of interest. Give me an example when you worked as a team. Those are the sorts of things that come up. Those are the bits where the careers team are really helpful. So, you know, I guess the one thing is I'm not too proud to take advice. I don't know everything, back to what we were saying before. I don't know everything. So I'm happy to take advice, and those careers guys and girls can really help you if you go and talk to them. Biscuits and being nice to them generally helps, because there's, I have to say, sorry for the students out there, some of the students who feel entitled, and they're people at the end of the day. But I'd ask them, they've got the latest questions that come up. Be prepared for annoying people like me. So I'd always do things like, if you put down reading on your CV, I'm going to ask you what book you read and ask me to tell you about it. And it's so many times that people boil it down. Well, I like reading Cosmo. It's like, well, that's not quite the same thing. So I'll always ask you the odd one. Be prepared for the odd ones, because in big firms, especially when you get to the partner level, partners can do whatever they want. They rule the roost, and they tend to be quite different. But I think, do your research, speak to your careers, see what they're, and start to prepare. The other thing you can use, and I know it might be controversial, but is AI. They're brilliant at stuff like this. What are the top 10 most common questions that are asked? They've got all this stuff and you can practice. And again, what I would do is aim to be punchy and different rather than just samey. Because if I've seen, I don't know with you guys, Nick, but if I've seen 10 people in a day, I've got to try and remember them.
Yep, I agree. I mean, it really helps not to just blend in, doesn't it?
It does. And there's visual cues you can use. So, I've got a friend who's from being a brand owner now is a LinkedIn influencer. He wears these really, really weird jumpers. He's known for it. I've got another mate who's never out of his branded gear for his business. No matter which business it is, he's in orange or now he's in yellow, he's always got his T-shirt on. All his friends are always ripping him. It's like, do you actually own any non-business merch? But yeah, think about how you're going to stand out. Your hair, but you have to be, the one thing I'd say is, Oscar Wilde said it's on ripping him off. You have to be true to yourself because everybody else is taken. I think they butchered the quote, but you can only be you. But again, being a bit more intentional, don't just wing it. So maybe dress differently, or maybe put a tie that's different, or I don't know, things that stand out, shoes, handbags for women, anything that you're, and also show your passion and points of difference would be my advice. Because again, it's a numbers game. And I have to say, and I'm making myself sound like an old fart, but I do feel sorry for this generation. It is super competitive.
Yeah.
My parents used to talk to me about how you'd walk out of one job and straight into another. That didn't happen for me, but it wasn't as hard as it is now, I don't think. So use every tool at your advantage.
Yeah. Show your differences.
And I guess the other thing might be practice. Yeah. Like try to get as many interviews because you get better muscle memory. So we were doing something the other day. I did my first hustings. So I've just won a I guess by the time this goes out, it'll have been announced, so I'm safe. I've been made a non-exec director of IPSI, which is for the independent professionals and self-employed. And I did my first hustings. It was on Discord. I didn't know anything about Discord as a channel. But we did an online thing. Sadly, there was 2 finance, which I was 1, and 2 general NEDs, and we're both competing for 1 role. My finance NED was sadly sick, so maybe I got it by default, I don't know. But the 2 general NEDs, amazing 2 ladies, they were really nervous. Well, I spent hours on camera all the time doing teaching and Zoom and things. So I guess it becomes like muscle memory to all of this. You get used to it. I hate looking at my face back, but as long as I can minimize it to about an inch of a square, I'm all right with it. But I'm cool with being online, and there is a different energy to online to in person, for example. So I think that get practice in, because it makes a lot of difference to how you can come across in interviews.
Thank you. And we are down to the last question. What's the best piece of advice you've received in your career that still guides you today?
Oh, it's dead easy. This was my favourite question. Say please, say thank you, and mean it. When I was 16 at school, I had an amazing tutor, Mr. Greenwood, who brought business to my school, which was a fairly traditional grammar school, and it was actually the number 9th best in England at the time, so it was very Latin, PPE, Oxford, Cambridge, and he brought business, and I took a punt on it rather than just doing economics, which is what I thought I was going to do. And he had this talk, and it was just after we privatised BT, and there was a famous company called Kingston Communications based out of Kingston upon Hull, and the guy who founded it, the MD, used to be a pole basher, as he called it. He was the guy who went back when your telephone cables were up poles. And he said, you should say please, and you should say thank you, and you should look after everybody from the top to the bottom equally. And the method he talked about was how the poles for the cables used to have grass around them, and that's where dogs would go to the toilet. And that's okay if you get poo on your boots on the way up, but you get it on your hands on the way down. And it really stuck with me, Nick. And I think all the way through, if you look after everybody equally and don't treat the MD better than you treat the receptionist or the people who are your admin, that really stands you in good stead. Yes, the admin people that you're more senior than have to do what you tell them, but they don't have to go out of their way. So I was always famous at Arthur Andersen for how could I always get my last minute printing done at the print room overnight when I didn't book it in and forgot. That's because I used to buy the guys at the print room beer and take it down to them, and I would go down and help them do it when I'd forgotten to book it in late at night. So I would sit there and they would show me how to use the machine and I would do the hard work. But also treating them like human beings, saying, please, can you do it? I'm really sorry, and thank you for doing it and meaning it, and turning up with a bunch of beer every now and then, or cookies or something. And again, I'm not trying to bribe people, but genuinely, thank you for your efforts goes a really, really long way. So that would be my piece of advice.
Show people their worth.
Yeah, and from my side, again, I guess one final example, I did a management buyout of an IT support business from 2015 to 2021, and we used to have this really cool office outside of Bath, which was a hotel, conference centre, and shared working space. And it was a beautiful manor house with the ugliest 1970s tack on that somebody had approved. But I used to love it because it was just outside of Bath. It had parking. I could stay there and commute to work when I stayed overnight. It was 2 seconds if I got my favourite room on the 3rd floor straight into our office. But there was a reception downstairs. I've never had a receptionist before. My businesses have never needed one. And one of our team was out doing, we still had technicians who went out on site. And the person who interviewed for the job was amazing. But one of our team said, did you hear what he was talking to the receptionist about, like, when I came downstairs? And apparently he'd been really rude. And that was interesting to me because I treat everybody the same. And that really stood out. So I think that kind of advice, be the same, treat everybody with respect, will take you a really long way. People will really help you if you're nice to them. And mean it. It's not Machiavellian, it's meaning it.
Yeah, and helps you make connections as well, doesn't it, if you're treating everyone?
I think so. Well, like, again, back to my mate, the networker, the reason everybody helps him is because he just introduces people with no benefit to him. Yeah. If he thinks there's a good connection to be had, he'll make the connection. And obviously, over time, that builds up a lot of goodwill, doesn't it? Yeah. People, I don't think the fundamentals have changed, even though technology and all the rest of it's changed. The fundamentals are people. It's like, I remember being in '93, there was this article, the internet's meaning we're all going to stay at home, and just all of, people go outside for a reason, right? You could just stay at home, but there's a reason you don't. It'd be a very boring world if you just sat in the house.
We did love to catastrophise in the 90s though, didn't we?
We did. And
I think we still do a bit now.
We did, and my favourite thing is one of the tests they did, nearly everybody nearly died, because back then the delivery and infrastructure networks weren't very good, so they were sat at home they did a test where could they live off the internet, and the answer was no.
Do you remember the millennium, when the millennium bug was going to destroy everything?
I do. I was actually out in London that night waiting for it all to fall apart. But
didn't happen, did it?
I even went home on the tube, Nick, which as you know from when we met, I don't really do tubes. But yeah, I think you can keep it really simple, and that's for me where I always try to be as humble as I possibly can, because I'm no better than anybody else or worse than anybody else.
Brilliant, thank you. That's sound advice, and thank you for speaking to us today and for sharing all of your career insights and all of your memories and all of your advice.
Thank you for putting me on the one podcast I never thought I'd be on, given it's a careers podcast. So thank you very much for taking upon me. I hope it was useful.